There's so much power in this therapeutic technique, I couldn't live another day without sharing it with you guys. Once you understand more about this technique, you can literally free yourself from pain and stress. Let me tell you more about it. So, there's a technique in therapy called narrative therapy, but it's not your average technique. The model targets one's problem and then basically says it has nothing to do with you. Crazy, I know, but wait, it gets good. The goal of this technique is to get one to view their problem as a completely different entity. Literally. Some therapists go as far as even giving the problem a name and referring to it in third person. For example, if you've been experiencing symptoms of depression or anxiety, instead of saying, I have depression or I have anxiety, in session, we would say, depression was really annoying me today, or anxiety was doing the most. This gets you to view the problem as a separate entity, like something that has come to intrude your happiness rather than something that is a part of you. Keep following. You're going to see how this technique is vital for success. And you guys know it wouldn't be me if I didn't tie in mental health and spirituality and science all together, because from my point of view, all is one. So when referencing spirituality, this may be why religions or spiritual folk oftentimes address their struggle as an external entity. For instance, when one feels deep sadness or fear, they may say, oh, that's the devil. What they're doing, whether they recognize it or not, is externalizing the problem, even giving it an identity or a name, as we would in narrative therapy, which will then support them in attacking it or being able to take it on. When we don't separate our problems from ourselves, what happens? We end up attacking ourselves. We end up beating ourselves up for being so sad or anxious all the time. Because naturally, instinctively, what we're trying to do is really fight the problem. But if we see the problem as us, something we are, then wouldn't that be just fighting yourself? Either way, the problem has got to be attacked. The problem has got to be handled. You're either going to externalize it and take it on from that space, or you're going to identify with it and end up attacking it from an internal space. Now, this does not mean you shouldn't acknowledge your presenting problems. If you know something is not right within you, acknowledge it and get the proper help. Mental health complications are very real. I wouldn't take on this occupation if I thought it was hoopla. It's very real. Your struggles are real. So yes, acknowledge it and get the help you need. But I'm also not going to sit up here and tell you to identify with it or claim it. Acknowledging something and claiming something are two very different things. As a clinician that diagnoses people myself, I would never want anyone to revolve their identity around a diagnosis, period. You cannot be treated by a therapist without a diagnosis. Now think about that. There are clinicians, doctors included, that beep, 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 give you a diagnosis so they could get on with treatment. And now you have a million people walking around identifying with disorders and illnesses that took a clinician 2 seconds to establish. And I'm not going to say much more about that. But I say that to say, stop identifying with your stuff. The more you identify with it, the more you claim it and accept it as you, the harder it becomes to shake off because you have now made it a part of your identity. This is very controversial. I often struggle on deciding what to share with you guys.